Hello, Fox fans. Can anybody hear me? Should be live now. I see Jake popped in briefly just before I started the stream. So I feel like you should be getting the notification. Logan has popped in. Nice to see you. And Natalia, welcome. Nice to see a fresh face in the Foxy Book Club. Hello to Madeline Clare and Olivia as well. And things seem to be working okay. Yeah. Rocking the Christmas sweater. I've had this one for a lot of years as well. Madeline was commenting on my cozy, sheepy, woolly jumper that I was wearing whilst streaming Skyrim the other day. And yeah, this is a little Norwegian piece. This is actually one of those that I picked up secondhand, Madeline. It's got these little buttons here. If you button it up, apparently you look like a snowman. And this little chap in the back here, this little guy, I don't actually know if he's got a name. I should have asked. I've only just thought about it. But this little chap belongs to Maria. I'll give you a closer look of Mr. Snowman. Perhaps you can suggest names for him. I'll grab him by the carrot nose. He doesn't mind. There he is. Isn't he nice? Rather portly, as you would expect from a snowman, of course. And I feel like we match rather well. We're definitely in theme, I think. So, yeah, I'll pop him back over here. And although he's close to the candles, you really don't need to worry about that. More of a fire hazard than a melting hazard, to be fair. But there's a good distance between candle and snowman, so it looks like his little hat is in the flame. I assure you, there's a good 15-20 centimeters at least there. No, they are live candles on the bed. Yeah. But it's on a wooden board. I'm not going to smash them over. It's fine. It's under control. Yeah, I had a little lantern one time, Madeline. Who else has popped in? Logan's enjoying the sweater as well. Thank you very much, Natalia, complimenting the secret garden. That's very nice. Thanks ever so much. And Jersey's roll calling as well. Caitlin's made it. Glad you can hear things okay. Again, I'm just rocking a bit more distance between myself and the microphone. It seemed to work better on the live stream the other day over on Twitch. It's not how I record generally, but I think for streaming, for some reason, it just works a little bit better when I get too close, as I have always done in the past. Even if I lower the input, it just adds a little bit of distortion, and I was always worried that if I got too far away from it, things would sound too boxy. But I think for a live stream, it doesn't really matter. I think it just works quite well, and it's not as like up in my face. So just let me know if you think it's too quiet or whatever. I can tweak it, but it should be okay. And welcome to Faye as well. Nice to see you, Faye. Yeah, adding a little bit of festive mood. I know I don't have like tinsel and baubles over the roof or anything, but a downplayed Swedish festivity here with the little Advent candles. For those of you not aware, I'm sure this is a thing in other countries too. It's not back in the UK. You know, we have the Advent calendars and all the rest of it. But in Sweden, and I'm sure it must originate in other countries too, but the first Sunday of December you light the first candle, and then you light the second, third, and fourth on each subsequent Sunday to bring you into Christmas. And Sweden, like with some other European countries, they celebrate Christmas Day on the 24th, not the 25th. So it's still basically called Christmas Eve, but that's the big event. That's like when you're gonna have your main Christmas meal, all the present opening, and quite a lot of people do the present opening later in the day as well, which I found a little bit hard to get used to. So even though you're a day early, it's still strange to not have that sort of 6 o'clock in the morning, bouncing on the bed, time for Christmas presents feeling. It's like, nah, come on, get up and have your breakfast, and then you'll have a nice Christmas lunch with all the Yule board stuff, all the Christmas food and everything. Yeah, relax a little bit. I'm like picturing an open fireplace. I definitely don't have one here, but you can imagine it. If you had a little cabin out in the woods, fire crackling, gather round the tree, and you can often even dress the tree very late into Christmas as well. Do some people do it on the 23rd? But definitely 23rd, 24th. Make a big deal of it. Presents under the tree. And then you're not going to have your present opening till sometime in the afternoon, maybe even into the evening. So you've got to be patient. Got to be patient. I liked that, and welcome DG. I like that you just named him Norbert. It's a solid suggestion. I like it. Yeah, it looks more dangerous than it is. I assure you. Yeah, I assure you. I've got a fire extinguisher standing by just in case. And welcome to Queen Boudica. But yeah, I just saw you saying, Madeline, that you do the same thing in Switzerland. Yeah, I was aware that there's various European countries that do the same thing. But in the UK and in the US, 25 Christmas Day, that's the one. Ah, yes, you do it in Denmark as well, DG. Duck and goose, right. Yeah, so like in Sweden, very fish based. It's a very fish based Christmas. They do have the Christmas ham, but cold fish can be warm fish too. But various cold fishes with little dips and sauces is a big deal here. So again, take some getting used to if you're used to duck, goose, turkey, chicken, whatever you've got. It's a bit different, but they do have some tasty stuff in and amongst. But I think if I had to choose between like a British Christmas dinner, traditional Christmas dinner, and a Swedish Christmas dinner, I would probably go British. But I think it's what you're used to at the end of the day. Who else is popping in? Victoria, evening. Nice to see you, Victoria. And Aaron as well. Ah, right. Yeah, that was my sort of second reading that I'd got planned, Aaron. So I was thinking of reading that one last year. And it has been requested a lot of times. I'm talking about Twas the Night Before Christmas, otherwise known as A Visit from St. Nicholas. And the one that I've got primarily lined up for tonight, The Snow Queen by H C Andersen. You know, I've been having a bit of a H C Andersen fest of late. It's quite a long one. It's his longest story that he ever published. Very highly acclaimed, very famous tale that inspired Frozen and many, many other stories and operas. There's all sorts of film and TV versions of the Snow Queen. Some more aimed towards children, some with a bit more of an adult vibe, depending on how it's told. And it's an infamous struggle between good and evil, as experienced mainly through the eyes of a couple of children, Gerda and Kai. And I've never actually read this story, but if I do get through it, so I can't judge exactly how long it's going to take me, but if I do get through it in one stream, then I would like to read "Twas the Night Before Christmas: A Visit from St. Nicholas." But if not, then I will just read it next time. So my plan was to stream this evening, and sorry for not announcing this. Like, I didn't give any notice whatsoever. Just a tiny little bit of notice over on Discord. Probably should have planned it a little bit better, but hey, lovely to see so many of you in the chat. It's really, really, really nice. Thank you for dropping in. So my plan was to do this stream today, and then tomorrow, maybe Tuesday, but I should probably just stick to it and say tomorrow. I'm rubbish at this sort of thing, honestly. But tomorrow, I was thinking of doing "Twas the Night Before Christmas" if it doesn't fit today, and the Nutcracker. So the Nutcracker, we talked about this quite a while ago. I think that would be a really, really nice one to do. And those two are short. "Twas the Night Before Christmas" is more of a poem. Well, it is a poem. I was going to say more of a poem than a short story even, but it's a poem. It's very short. And Nutcracker, I believe, is not particularly long. I have looked this up in the past, but I can't just remember. It is, yeah, it's only 80 pages. That's longer than it sounds, though, actually. So I think those two would work very well in the next stream. And if I can squeeze in a third stream before Christmas, then I will. But I will be away from home just for a couple of nights, going into a little Swedish family bubble with Maria and her very, very close family. There's just going to be 5 of us for 2 nights, and then back here. But if I can squeeze in another stream, then there's an absolute bunch of other Christmassy stories that we could do. And if you've any favorites or something you'd like to hear, it doesn't have to be Christmassy. It can just be wintry and festive, whatever. Obviously, not everybody celebrates Christmas or anything. Then we can fire away with festive-y, wintry suggestions, and there's so many that we could choose from. I'm going to get started with the reading as soon as possible, but I just wanted to check through the chat again. And so Lynette has joined as well. I know it's very late for you. Oh, and thank you so much for the donation as well. I don't actually know what that translates to, converts to, Lynette, but it really doesn't matter as long as you've not just thrown £1 million at me. But thank you so much for the donation on Super Chat, Lynette. That's super kind. And like I said, I know it's late for you over there. I was so conscious of starting a couple of hours earlier than I did, and you were in my mind with that as well, because I know if you're tuning in a few hours further east, it's getting late. So lovely to see you. Logan says happy Hanukkah. Absolutely. And this is interesting as well. Yeah, I'm familiar with Orthodox Christmas Day, or like old Christmas, I think they call it in some countries. Is it, because you're saying in Serbia it's January 7th? I've got 13th of January in my head for an old Christmas date as well. Maybe I'm getting it mixed up. Maybe it was the 7th somewhere else, and I can't remember if it was Poland. Oh no, it must have been January 7th. Yeah. So it is connected with the Orthodox Christianity. Oh no, but this old Christmas Day, that's oof, gosh, I don't want to. I'm just like saying things the second they pass through my brain. I should just hold fire here. So here it says January 5th or 6th as Old Christmas Day. I won't start reading all this now, but yeah, interesting stuff. I find this stuff really fascinating. So yeah, good stuff, Jelena, and welcome to the stream as well. Nice to see you. And Elisif as well. Welcome. What else we're saying? Oh, and Victoria. You like venison on your Christmas dinner. Very nice. And a lot of people obviously have veggie Christmas dinners as well. Like Maria is vegetarian, and her sister also. So yeah, you've got plenty of options. Have I missed anybody else popping in? Not sure. Faye, you're lining up the beef. Thanks ever so much, Lynette. That's really nice. DG says, have you read The Little Mermaid yet? No. So I had Emperor's New Clothes was the first one that I did from H C Andersen as a regular video. So I read The Last Oak Tree. The Last Oak. It's quite a while ago now. It's like 6 weeks ago. Yeah, on a live stream, and we were skimming through all sorts of options. Then I threw the poll out on my community tab. Emperor's New Clothes absolutely smashed the poll, so I went for that one first. But after I'd published that, The Little Mermaid started creeping up and has actually overtaken Emperor's New Clothes now. So Little Mermaid will be my next one. But with it being of the season and also the most requested in the comments of the poll, I've also done The Little Match Girl, which I shared just a few days ago. So do give that one a listen as well. But yeah, Little Mermaid in the new year, I'll definitely be reading that one and sharing it as a separate video as well. So yeah, Snow Queen, that's what's lined up for today. Celtic Girl, and welcome. Very nice to see you. Oh, that's nice, Faye. Yeah, like I said, I've never actually read it myself. And I've just read, if for those of you not familiar with the Snow Queen, it is split into 7 little mini stories. And I've just read the first one to myself today. But then there are 6 more, and I've literally just skimmed over it a little bit. I've not read it at all, so I'm just gonna read it completely raw, and just see how it goes. I know that I'm asking for more mistakes and things if I just read it completely off the cuff, but I quite enjoy doing it. There's just something quite relaxing about it. Like I'm actually experiencing it for the first time, so it gives me a little bit more personally. I think I've noticed when I do that. So even though it's tricky reading live anyway, but you know, if I prepare more for a live reading, it can help it be a little bit smoother. But sometimes it's not quite as natural, and also, you know, it sort of it like spoils something about it for me as well. So, you know, as I've never read this one, I'm just gonna read it as we go, and you will hear me read it out aloud for the first time. So there you go, and I hope you enjoy it. So yeah, 7 parts, and I've also got some illustrations lined up to show as I read as well. So these are by a very talented illustrator that I found on Tumblr, called Erin Beachy. She's an illustrator from Chicago, and I came across her art blog when searching for the Snow Queen illustrations. So do take a look at her stuff. She's done a load of original illustrations for various H C Andersen works and many of the Brothers Grimm fairy tales as well. Absolutely lovely, and she illustrates all sorts of stuff, but she does have a fairy tale hashtag on her Tumblr as well. So I think I come across her through Pinterest, I think, at first, and then I went over to her Tumblr. But her name is Erin Beachy. Let me just get. I can't type here. Just 1 second. Maybe I should just add it here. So if I just make this visible 1 second. Sorry for the bang. It's my cup of tea. Let's do this. Oops. I'm too squashed here. My keyboard is not in the best place. Erin Beachy. I think that will work. Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna just throw those up in the bottom right hand of the screen as I go, just to add a little accompaniment. And honestly, her illustrations are absolutely gorgeous. So you'll see those in just a minute. And let me just see what else was going on in the chat whilst I finish my cup of tea, and then I'll get reading. I think I saw someone mentioning some fish. Celtic says, I eat fish on Christmas. Yeah, as you don't eat red meat. Yeah. And I mean, to be fair, I have been enjoying the fishy Christmas dinners over the years. It's just at first it feels strange, I think, when you're used to, because it is generally cold fishes in like little dips and things. Like I said, like little sauces. They have sill, which is herring, so it's quite salty. So it's quite, yeah, in these little different sauces. So quite different from like a warm chicken breast or something, whatever you have. And no Yorkshire puddings either. The Grinch, yeah. So I sound silly maybe, but is the Grinch based on a book? I actually laugh at people sometimes when they say that sort of thing, when it's some sort of like crazy famous book and they're not aware that it wasn't a film first or something. But the Grinch could, but I guess it's too new. Oh, wait, of course, right, of course it's a Dr. Seuss. Yeah, so that is still copyrighted, unfortunately. So it's best to stick with the classics, but it's a nice suggestion. Oh, and Faye said that on literally the next line. Oh, true, Lynette. It is much more early than late. Gosh, is it 4 a.m. now? Oh, goodness me. That is impressive. Yeah, DG says good winter solstice. Yeah, yeah, we're right there, aren't we? And welcome. I think I've struggled with your name before. I'm never sure if it's theme, tem. Welcome though. You seem like you're up for the Snow Queen. Good stuff. Um, yeah, honestly, and welcome to Luna. I would absolutely love to read some Pippi Longstocking. But that's another one, by Astrid Lindgren. Arguably the most loved Swedish author, certainly of children's books. Pippi Longstrump. But yeah, that is another copyrighted one, unfortunately. I wish I could just read anything I like, but we know how that goes. Oh, and thank you very much, Olivia. I'm glad you enjoyed the raw reads. Oh, and thank you very much, Dandelion. That's really, really nice. Glad you're enjoying my channel. If you ever want any recommendations of what content of mine to give a go, if you're new to the channel, I've had a lot of things taken down, or I've had to remove over the years due to copyright. So the content that's on this channel feels to me like a shadow of all the things that I have actually been working on and producing over the last 3 years or so. But there's still a fair chunk of things to listen to. Oh, and welcome to... Oh no, that's DG. Have you changed your name, I think, to Dawn? You've fleshed it out. It does make it a little bit easier, so... Welcome, Dawn. Thanks for that. And Celtic Girls suggesting Pollyanna. I'll have to have a look at that one. And welcome to Jean. Oh, and welcome to Peter as well. Oh, don't you worry. I hope you're okay. I hope you're doing okay. Super nice to see you. Um, yeah, I don't know what to say. Like, cause Peter's been very ill, and you were just apologising for not being around. But lovely to see you in the chat. All the best, Peter. Always welcome. Oh, and Pollyanna's a fave of Dawn. I should definitely look that up then. By Eleanor Porter. Good stuff. This is a chai. It's a chai in a little Dobby mug, actually. Again, of Maria's. I just steal everything that she owns.
Dobby has no master. Dobby is a free elf.
Rather sweet. Yeah, it's a cup of chai. Yeah, definitely have a look, Luna. And like I said, I'll share 7 illustrations of hers of Erin Beach's. I hope she doesn't mind during the stream. So they'll be quite big. I don't know if I'm displaying them too big, but you're only just staring at my face and the chat anyway. So why not have a lovely illustration there to accompany the story? Oh, and welcome to Shannon. She just comes in with the $2 in super chat. Thank you so much, Shannon. Lovely to see you. I don't think you made it for the stream the other day. I'm not sure if you popped in and popped out. But I was streaming on Twitch the other day with a bit of Skyrim, and I was trying Modern Warfare 2 as well for old time's sake. But I think it's down to just my computer is too old to handle it, to be able to stream it. Which is crazy because Modern Warfare 2 is a pretty old game, and it runs Skyrim. Like when the internet is playing ball, it runs Skyrim absolutely fine, but Modern Warfare 2, it was having a nightmare. But lovely to see you, Shannon, and thank you so much for the super chat. It's really, really cool. Wind in the Willows, that's definitely an option, Victoria. Absolutely. The Little Princess, or A Little Princess, and welcome to Miss Pink Punky Cat. Nothing's happened to it. I will definitely be continuing with it. I was working on Dracula basically, so I had to stop working on Lord of the Rings, and I just felt bad for starting a couple of new projects without finishing Dracula. And I really used Dracula to just focus my energies while sort of recovering from the blow of having to remove all of my Lord of the Rings stuff. So I've finished Dracula now, just a few days ago, really. Um, so basically, once we're in the new year, I've mentioned it a few times on the live streams. A Little Princess will be my primary focus, but I am looking to start other things too and finish other things as well. So, but yeah, it's to do. It is to do. Looking forward to it. I've read quite a few of the chapters. So I know what's coming and pretty much know what to expect, and I'm looking forward to getting stuck in with it again. So, Secret Garden fans, you should be very happy. But fans of all sorts of stories, I think, could enjoy A Little Princess. Frances Hodgson Burnett is a lovely author. So, and Luna's just mentioning that you're finishing up with The Secret Garden. Yeah, oh, thank you, Lynette. That's very kind. Um, yeah, you're mentioning that Dracula was awesomeness. Jekyll and Hyde as well. I did for the spooky season. And you've got Animal Farm, and there's various other things, of course. But it hurts when I'd been working. Perhaps it was foolish in hindsight or whatever. But when I was working on Harry Potter and the Chronicles of Narnia and the Lord of the Rings, and devoted, I mean, hundreds and hundreds of hours into those projects, and then having to remove them and everything. Of course, like losing those channels back in the day as well, and having to start over again. But thank you, Lynette. It's very kind of you to say that there's still a bunch of lovely stuff on the channel, and there's always new things in the works. So. Oh, and you're saying you watched The Chamber of Secrets yesterday. That's cool, Dawn. I loved Chamber of Secrets. Like, narrating that was an absolute joy. Oh, and hello to Never Too Late as well. Nice to see you. You've just been moving. Gosh, I know that feeling. I hope it's gone smoothly. Nice to see you. Yeah, of course you were having phone issues, Shannon. Yeah, of course you were. Of course you were. Yeah, nice to have you back. Never too late. Don't be a stranger. Yeah, that's one that's been mentioned a bunch, Miss Pinky Punk. I was looking it up during a live stream a couple of months ago. The Alchemist. Yeah, definite possibility. It wasn't one of these that was still copyrighted, was it? I think it was actually. I remember thinking it sounded great, but it was a little bit more modern. Yeah, I think it's another copyright issue. I would so like to do that. And June as well, you're mentioning. So many people have asked me about June. But again, although it's a relatively old book, it is still copyrighted. But June, I've never read, but I've heard such good things about it. So, yeah, exactly, Faye. You're just talking about the public domain books. Yeah, I mean, there's obviously almost an infinite library of classics and public domain works. Although sometimes it feels so frustrating that you can't um, just read and share whatever you like, because it feels like it's such a positive thing for literature. So many of you have shared so many kind words regarding this whole thing, and but I don't know, what can you do? Obviously, copyright is there for a reason, and there's a lot of positives to copyright. But I do feel like it could do with um, a bit more leniency, and a more modern outlook, I think. some of these copyright laws, they've been around such an incredibly long time, long before the internet was even a twinkle in the eye. So I feel like times are changing, and we should reflect that in copyright law. But we'll see what the future holds. And welcome to Jean. I don't think I've said hello to you, have I, Jean? If you get a second hello, it's never a problem. Heidi, you're suggesting. Three Musketeers, definitely one I've looked into many times. Yeah, definite possible. Such a contrast of terms, I realised when I said a definite possible. Thanks so much, Miss Pinky Punky. Thanks, Celtic Girl. Yeah, it's a lovely story, Secret Garden. Yeah, I know, Shannon. Yeah, when I read the camera instruction manual. Yeah, good times. Thank you for helping out, Faye. And sorry, Dawn. Thank you so much for the $5 in Super Chat. Thank you so much, Dawn. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed. And thanks for sharing that public domain link, Miss Pink Punky. I don't know how many hours I've spent scrolling through lists of public domain books, and I've skimmed the start of so many stories. I've got an incredibly long list of things that I would love to read. It's a very long process, though, making audiobooks. So especially when you're just one person, like if you've got someone editing for you, and maybe what's the word? Sort of proof listening, and maybe even sort of directing you in some way, giving you suggestions of how to approach the work. And so if you're an A-list celebrity working in an A-list recording studio with a team of people working for you, then they can incredibly bash out an audiobook in a week or so. But it takes me months often, depending on the length of the book. So even if I dedicate myself absolutely full time to a project, it's a very time consuming process. So and thank you, Faye. There you go, you figured it out. Thanks for helping her out as well. Thanks so much. That's super kind of you, Faye. Thank you for the super chats. I so appreciate the donations, by the way. Yeah, it really does mean a lot. Like, my YouTube channel is still doing fairly well, but it was a crushing blow losing Lord of the Rings. My view count dropped enormously, and I'm so grateful for the support over on Patreon, and some of you send donations through PayPal and stuff like that, which is absolutely amazing, because my channel doesn't get a lot of views, and I do try and dedicate myself to this whole thing sort of full time, so these contributions are hugely valuable to me. I know they're valuable to anybody technically, but I appreciate it so much. So thank you. All right, yeah, you're getting into the copyright chat now. Right, I'll crack on with some reading. I won't go down that rabbit hole just now. Oh, no more than I already have. So, do we think that's too big, or is it all right? I might just shrink it slightly, just so it looks a little bit more symmetrical. So this is Erin Beach's representation of the first story. I think we're all right. I think the sound is okay, isn't it? It's not too quiet. Hopefully it's okay. I would like to be a bit more over here, but my mic, it's hard for it to fit in this little space that I've got. I know you can't see the chaos that's in front of me, but it's a very small space with a lot of stuff. So if I'm slightly off screen, maybe it's well, this is okay, right? I think this is okay. Hopefully. Okay, I'll get started. And anybody that's popping into the stream whilst I'm reading, please give them a little welcome if they say hello. Alright, hopefully the sound quality is okay. And like I said, apart from this first story, I am reading this whole thing for the first time, so fingers crossed. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. See how it goes. And I hope you're enjoying the Foxy Book Club. The Snow Queen by H C Andersen. And this is a translation from the original Danish by Jean Hersholt. Oh, talking of Jeans, welcome to Jean. Thank you so much for becoming an official Fox fan, Jean. Much appreciated. So, yeah, for those of you that are not aware, I know loads of YouTubers use them, but that's the channel membership. So thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate that, Jean. Thank you. Lovely timing. So Jean Hersholt translating this. I've been using their translations for The Emperor's New Clothes and A Little Match Girl, and they're very highly regarded. So hopefully it's a nice, smooth read. And I'm using this same website that I've mentioned in the video for Emperor's New Clothes and The Little Match Girl as well. The link is in those videos. It's called Andersen.sdu.dk, and it's a full Hans Christian Andersen portal, basically, with links to his complete works. It's really, really great. And I've compared these translations to others, and they seem very, very good. So here we go. Welcome to the newcomers. The Snow Queen. A Tale in 7 Stories. First story, which has to do with a mirror and its fragments. Now then, we will begin. When the story is done, you shall know a great deal more than you do now. He was a terribly bad hobgoblin, a goblin of the very wickedest sort, and in fact, he was the devil himself. One day, the devil was in a very good humour because he had just finished a mirror, which had this peculiar power. Everything good and beautiful that was reflected in it seemed to dwindle to almost nothing at all, while everything that was worthless and ugly became most conspicuous and even uglier than ever. In this mirror, the loveliest landscapes looked like boiled spinach, and the very best people became hideous, or stood on their heads and had no stomachs. Their faces were distorted beyond any recognition, and if a person had a freckle, it was sure to spread until it covered both nose and mouth. "That's very funny," said the devil. If a good pious thought passed through anyone's mind, it showed in the mirror as a carnal grin, and the devil laughed aloud at his ingenious invention. All those who went to the hobgoblin's school, for he had a school of his own, told everyone that a miracle had come to pass, Now, they asserted, for the very first time, you could see how the world and its people really looked. They scurried about with the mirror until there was not a person alive, nor a land on earth, that had not been distorted. Then they wanted to fly up to heaven itself, to scoff at the angels and our Lord. The higher they flew with the mirror, the wider it grinned. They could hardly manage to hold it. Higher they flew and higher still, nearer to heaven and the angels. Then the grinning mirror trembled with such violence that it slipped from their hands and fell to the earth, where it shattered into hundreds of millions of billions of bits, or perhaps even more. And now it caused more trouble than it did before it was broken, because some of the fragments were smaller than a grain of sand, and these went flying throughout the wide world. Once they got in people's eyes, they would stay there. These bits of glass distorted everything the people saw, and made them see only the bad side of things. For every little bit of glass kept the same power that the whole mirror had possessed. A few people even got a glass splinter in their hearts, and that was a terrible thing, for it turned their hearts into lumps of ice. Some of the fragments were so large that they were used as window panes, but not the kind of window through which you should look at your friends. Other pieces were made into spectacles, and evil things came to pass when people put them on to see clearly and to see justice done. The fiend was so tickled by it all that he laughed till his sides were sore. But fine bits of the glass are still flying through the air. And now you shall hear what happened. Second story. A little boy and a little girl. In the big city it was so crowded with houses and people that few found room for even a small garden, and most people had to be content with a flower pot. But two poor children who lived there managed to have a garden that was a little bigger than a flower pot. These children were not brother and sister, but they loved each other just as much as if they had been. Their parents lived close to one another in the garrets of two adjoining houses. Where the roofs met, and where the rain gutter ran between the two houses, their two small windows faced each other. One had only to step across the rain gutter to go from window to window. In these windows, the parents had a large box where they planted vegetables for their use, and a little rose bush too. Each box had a bush, which thrived to perfection. Then it occurred to the parents to put these boxes across the gutter, where they very nearly reached from one window to the other, and looked exactly like two walls of flowers. The pea plants hung down over the boxes, and the rose bushes threw out long sprays that framed the windows and bent over toward each other. It was almost like a little triumphal arch of greenery and flowers. The boxes were very high, and the children knew that they were not to climb about on them, but they were often allowed to take their little stalls out on the roof under the roses, where they had a wonderful time playing together. Winter, of course, put an end to this pleasure. The windows often frosted over completely. But they would heat hopper pennies on the stove and press these hot coins against the frost-coated glass. Then they had the finest of peepholes, as round as a ring, and behind them appeared a bright, friendly eye, one at each window. It was the little boy and the little girl who peeped out. His name was Kai, and hers was Gerda. With one skip they could join each other in summer, but to visit together in the winter time they had to go all the way downstairs in one house and climb all the way upstairs in the other. Outside the snow was whirling.
"See the white bees swarming,"
the old grandmother said.
"Do they have a queen bee too?"
the little boy asked, for he knew that real bees have one.
"Yes, indeed they do,"
the grandmother said.
"She flies in the thick of the swarm. She is the biggest bee of all, and can never stay quietly on the earth, but goes back again to the dark clouds. Many a wintry night she flies through the streets and peers in through the windows. Then they freeze over in a strange fashion, as if they were covered with flowers." "Oh, yes, we've seen that," both the children said, and so they knew it was true. "Can the Snow Queen come in here?" the little girl asked. "Well, let her come," cried the boy. "I would put her on the hot stove and melt her."
But grandmother stroked his head and told them other stories. That evening, when little Kai was at home and half ready for bed, he climbed on the chair by the window and looked out through the little peephole. A few snowflakes were falling, and the largest flake of all alighted on the edge of the flower boxes. This flake grew bigger and bigger, until at last it turned into a woman, who was dressed in the finest white gauze, which looked as if it had been made from millions of star-shaped flakes. She was beautiful, and she was graceful, but she was ice-shining, glittering ice. But she was ice, shining, glittering ice. She was alive for all that, and her eyes sparkled like two bright stars, but in them there was neither rest nor peace. She nodded toward the window and beckoned with her hand. The little boy was frightened, and as he jumped down from the chair it seemed to him that a huge bird flew past the window. The next day was clear and cold. Then the snow thawed, and springtime came. The sun shone, the green grass sprouted, swallows made their nests, windows were thrown open, and once again the children played in their little roof garden, high up in the rain gutter on top of the house. That summer the roses bloomed their splendid best. The little girl had learned a hymn in which there was a line about roses that reminded her of their own flowers. She sang it to the little boy, and he sang it with her. "Where roses bloom so sweetly in the vale, there shall you find the Christ child without fail." The children held each other by the hand, kissed the roses, looked up at the Lord's clear sunshine, and spoke to it as if the Christ child were there. What glorious summer days those were, and how beautiful it was out under those fragrant rose bushes which seemed as if they would never stop blooming. Kai and Gerda were looking at a picture book of birds and beasts one day, and it was then, just as the clock in the church tower was striking 5, that Kai cried, "Oh, something hurt my heart, and now I've got something in my eye."
The little girl put her arm around his neck, and he blinked his eye. No, she couldn't see anything in it. "I think it's gone," he said. But it was not gone. It was one of those splinters of glass from the magic mirror. You remember that goblin's mirror? The one which made everything great and good that was reflected in it appear small and ugly, but which magnified all evil things until each blemish loomed large. Poor Kai. A fragment had pierced his heart as well, and soon it would turn into a lump of ice. The pain had stopped, but the glass was still there. "Why should you be crying?" he asked. "It makes you look so ugly. There's nothing the matter with me." And suddenly he took it into his head to say, "Ugh! That rose is all worm-eaten. And look, this one is crooked. And these roses, they are just as ugly as they can be. They look like the boxes they grow in." He gave the boxes a kick and broke off both of the roses. "Kai, what are you doing?" the little girl cried. When he saw how it upset her, he broke off another rose, and then leaped home through his own window, leaving dear little Gerda all alone. Afterwards, when she brought out her picture book, he said it was only fit for babies in the cradle. And whenever grandmother told stories, he always broke in with a "but." If he could manage it, he would steal behind her, perch a pair of spectacles on his nose, and imitate her. He did this so cleverly that it made everybody laugh, and before long he could mimic the walk and the talk of everyone who lived on that street. Everything that was odd or ugly about them, Kai could mimic so well that people said, "That boy has surely got a good head on him." But it was the glass in his eye and the glass in his heart that made him tease even little Gerda, who loved him with all her soul. Now his games were very different from what they used to be. They became more sensible. When the snow was flying about one wintry day, he brought a large magnifying glass out of doors and spread the tail of his blue coat to let the snowflakes fall on it. "Now look through the glass," he told Gerda. Each snowflake seemed much larger, and looked like a magnificent flower or a 10-pointed star. It was marvellous to look at. "Look, how artistic," said Kai. "They are much more interesting to look at than real flowers, for they are absolutely perfect. There isn't a flaw in them until they start melting." A little while later, Kai came down with his big gloves on his hands and his sled on his back. Right in Gerda's ear, he bawled out, "I've been given permission to play in the big square where the other boys are." And away he ran. In the square, some of the more adventurous boys would tie their little sleds on behind the farmers' carts, to be pulled along for quite a distance. It was wonderful sport. While the fun was at its height, a big sleigh drove up. It was painted entirely white, and the driver wore a white shaggy fur cloak and a white shaggy cap. As the sleigh drove twice around the square, Kai quickly hooked his little sled behind it, and down the street they went, faster and faster. The driver turned around in a friendly fashion and nodded to Kai, just as if they were old acquaintances. Every time Kai started to unfasten his little sleigh, its driver nodded again, and Kai held on, even when they drove right out through the town gate.
Then the snow began to fall so fast that the boy could not see his hands in front of him as they sped on. He suddenly let go the slack of the rope in his hands in order to get loose from the big sleigh, but it did no good. His little sled was tied on securely, and they went like the wind. He gave a little shout, but nobody heard him. The snow whirled and the sleigh flew along. Every now and then it gave a jump as if it were clearing hedges and ditches. The boy was terror-stricken. He tried to say his prayers, but all he could remember was his multiplication tables. The snowflakes got bigger and bigger, until they looked like big white hens. All of a sudden, the curtain of snow parted, and the big sleigh stopped, and the driver stood up. The fur coat and the cap were made of snow, and it was a woman, tall and slender, and blinding white. She was the Snow Queen herself. "We have made good time," she said. "Is it possible that you tremble from cold? Crawl into my bear coat." She took him in the sleigh beside her, and as she wrapped the fur coat about him, he felt as if he was sinking into a snowdrift. "Oh, are you still cold?" she asked, and kissed him on the forehead. Brrr! That kiss was colder than ice. He felt it right down to his heart, half of which was already an icy lump. He felt as if he were dying, but only for a moment. Then he felt quite comfortable, and no longer noticed the cold. "My sled! Don't forget my sled!" It was the only thing he thought of. They tied it to one of the white hens, which flew along after them, with the sled on its back. The Snow Queen kissed Kai once more, and then he forgot little Gerda and grandmother and all the others at home. "You won't get any more kisses now," she said, "or else I should kiss you to death." Kai looked at her. She was so beautiful, a cleverer and prettier face he could not imagine. She no longer seemed to be made of ice, as she had seemed when she sat outside his window and beckoned to him. In his eyes she was perfect, and she was not at all afraid. He told her how he could do mental arithmetic, even with fractions, and that he knew the size and population of all the countries. She kept on smiling, and he began to be afraid that he did not know as much as he thought he did. He looked up at the great big space overhead, as she flew with him high up on the black clouds, while the storm whistled and roared as if it were singing old ballads. They flew over forests and lakes, over many a land and sea. Below them the wind blew cold, wolves howled, and black crows screamed as they skimmed across the glittering snow. But up above, the moon shone bright and large, and on it Kai fixed his eyes throughout that long, long winter night. By day, he slept at the feet of the Snow Queen. third story. The flower garden of the woman skilled in magic. How did little Gerda get along when Kai did not come back? Where could he be? Nobody knew. Nobody could give them any news of him. All that the boys could say was that they had seen him hitch his little sled to a fine big sleigh, which had driven down the street and out through the town gate. Nobody knew what had become of Kai. Many tears were shed, and little Gerda sobbed hardest of all. People said that he was dead, that he must have been drowned in the river not far from town. Ah, how gloomy those long winter days were. But spring and its warm sunshine came at last. Kai is dead and gone, little Gerda said. I don't believe it, said the sunshine. He's dead and gone, she said to the swallows. We don't believe it, they sang. Finally little Gerda began to disbelieve it too. One morning she said to herself, I'll put on my new red shoes, the ones Kai has never seen, and I'll go down by the river to ask about him. It was very early in the morning. She kissed her old grandmother, who was still asleep, put on her red shoes, and all by herself she hurried out through the town gate and down to the river. Is it true that you have taken my own little playmate? I'll give you my red shoes if you will bring him back to me. It seemed to her that the waves nodded very strangely. So she took off her red shoes that were her dearest possession, and she threw them into the river. But they fell near the shore, and the little waves washed them right back to her. It seemed that the river could not take her dearest possession, because it did not have little Kai. However, she was afraid that she had not thrown them far enough, so she clambered into a boat that lay among the reeds, walked to the end of it, and threw her shoes out into the water again. But the boat was not tied, and her movements made it drift away from the bank. She realized this, and tried to get ashore, but by the time she reached the other end of the boat it was already more than a yard from the bank, and was fast gaining speed. Little Gerda was so frightened that she began to cry, and no one was there to hear her except the sparrows. They could not carry her to land, but they flew along the shore, twittering, "We are here! Here we are!" as if to comfort her. The boat drifted swiftly down the stream, and Gerda sat there quite still in her stocking feet. Her little red shoes floated along behind, but they could not catch up with her because the boat was gathering headway. It was very pretty on both sides of the river, where the flowers were lovely, the trees were old, and the hillsides afforded pasture for cattle and sheep. But not one single person did Gerda see. Perhaps the river will take me to little Kai, she thought, and that made her feel more cheerful. She stood up and watched the lovely green banks for hour after hour. Then she came to a large cherry orchard, in which there was a little house with strange red and blue windows. It had a thatched roof, and outside it stood 2 wooden soldiers, who presented arms to everyone who sailed past. Gerda thought they were alive and called out to them, but of course they did not answer her. She drifted quite close to them as the current drove the boat toward the bank. Gerda called even louder, and an old woman came out of the house. She leaned on a crooked stick. She had on a big sun hat, and on it were painted the most glorious flowers.
"You poor little child!" the old woman exclaimed. "However did you get lost on this big swift river? And however did you drift so far into the great wide world?"
The old woman waded right into the water, caught hold of the boat with her crooked stick, pulled it into shore, and lifted little Gerda out of it. Gerda was very glad to be on dry land again, but she felt a little afraid of this strange old woman, who said to her,
"Come and tell me who you are and how you got here."
Gerda told her all about it. The woman shook her head and said, "Hmm." And when Gerda had told her everything and asked if she hadn't seen little Kai, the woman said he had not come by, but that he might be along any day now. And she told Gerda not to take it to heart, but to taste her cherries and to look at her flowers. These were more beautiful than any picture book, and each one had a story to tell. Then she led Gerda by the hand into her little house, and the old woman locked the door. The windows were placed high up on the walls, and through their red, blue, and yellow panes the sunlight streamed in a strange mixture of all the colours there are. But on the table were the most delicious cherries, and Gerda, who was no longer afraid, ate as many as she liked. She was still eating them. The old woman combed her hair with a golden comb. Gerda's pretty hair fell in shining yellow ringlets on either side of a friendly little face that was as round and blooming as a rose.
"I've so often wished for a dear little girl like you," the old woman told her. "Now you'll see how well the two of us will get along."
While her hair was being combed, Gerda gradually forgot all about Kai, for the old woman was skilled in magic. But she was not a wicked witch. She only dabbled in magic to amuse herself, but she wanted very much to keep little Gerda. So she went out into her garden and pointed her crooked stick at all the rose bushes. In the full bloom of their beauty, all of them sank down into the black earth, without leaving a single trace behind. The old woman was afraid that if Gerda saw them, they would remind her so strongly of her own roses and of little Kai that she would run away again. Then Gerda was led into the flower garden. How fragrant and lovely it was! Every known flower of every season was there in full bloom. No picture book was ever so pretty and gay. Gerda jumped for joy and played in the garden until the sun went down behind the tall cherry trees. Then she was tucked into a beautiful bed under a red silk coverlet quilted with blue violets. There she slept, and there she dreamed as gloriously as any queen on her wedding day. The next morning she again went out into the warm sunshine to play with the flowers, and this she did for many a day. Gerda knew every flower by heart, and, plentiful though they were, she always felt that there was one missing, but which one she didn't quite know. One day she sat looking at the old woman's sun hat, and the prettiest of all the flowers painted on it was a rose. The old woman had forgotten this rose on her hat when she made the real roses disappear in the earth. But that's just the sort of thing that happens when one doesn't stop to think.
"Why aren't there any roses here?" said Gerda. She rushed out among the flower beds, and she looked, but there wasn't a rose to be seen. Then she sat down and cried, but her hot tears fell on the very spot where a rose bush had sunk into the ground, and when her warm tears moistened the earth, the bush sprang up again, as full of blossoms as when it disappeared. Gerda hugged it and kissed the roses. She remembered her own pretty roses, and thought of little Kai. "Oh, how long I have been delayed," the little girl said. "I should have been looking for Kai. Don't you know where he is?" she asked the roses. "Do you think that he is dead and gone?"
"He isn't dead," the roses told her. "We have been down in the earth, where the dead people are, but Kay is not there."
"Oh, thank you," said little Gerda, who went to all the other flowers, put her lips near them and asked, "Do you know where little Kai is?" But every flower stood in the sun and dreamed its own fairy tale or its story. Though Gerda listened to many, many of them, not one of the flowers knew anything about Kai. What did the tiger lilies say? "Do you hear the drum? Boom, boom." It was only 2 notes, always boom, boom. Hear the women wail, hear the priests chant. The Hindu woman in her long red robe stands on the funeral pyre. The flames rise around her and her dead husband, but the Hindu woman is thinking of that living man in the crowd around them. She is thinking of him whose eyes are burning hotter than the flames, of him whose fiery glances have pierced her heart more deeply than these flames that soon will burn her body to ashes. Can the flame of the heart die in the flame of the funeral pyre? "I don't understand that at all," little Gerda said. "That's my fairy tale," said the lily. What did the trumpet flower say? "An ancient castle rises high from a narrow path in the mountains. The thick ivy grows leaf upon leaf where it climbs to the balcony. There stands a beautiful maiden. She leans out over the balustrade to look down the path. No rose on its stem is as graceful as she, nor is any apple blossom in the breeze so light. Hear the rustle of her silk gown, sighing, 'Will he never come?'" "Do you mean Kai?" little Gerda asked. "I am talking about my story, my own dream," the trumpet flower replied. What did the little snowdrop say? "Between the trees, a board hangs by 2 ropes. It is a swing. 2 pretty little girls, with frocks as white as snow and long green ribbons fluttering from their hats, are swinging. Their brother, who is bigger than they are, stands behind them on the swing, with his arms around the ropes to hold himself. In one hand he has a little cup, and in the other a clay pipe. He is blowing soap bubbles, and as the swing flies, the bubbles float off in all their changing colours. The last bubble is still clinging to the bowl of his pipe, and fluttering in the air as the swing sweeps to and fro. A little black dog light as a bubble, is standing on his hind legs and trying to get up in the swing. But it does not stop. High and low the swing flies, until the dog loses his balance, barks, and loses his temper. They tease him, and the bubble bursts. A swinging board pictured in a bubble before it broke. That is my story.
It's maybe a very pretty story, but you told it very sadly, and you didn't mention Kai at all. What did the hyacinth say? There were 3 little sisters, quite transparent and very fair. One wore a red dress, the second wore a blue, and the third went all in white. Hand in hand they danced in the clear moonlight beside a calm lake. They were not elfin folk, they were human beings. The air was sweet, and the sisters disappeared into the forest. The fragrance of the air grew sweeter. 3 coffins, in which lie the 3 sisters, glide out of the forest and across the lake. The fireflies hover about them like little flickering lights. Are the dancing sisters sleeping, or are they dead? The fragrance of the flowers says they are dead, and the evening bell tolls for their funeral. You are making me very unhappy, little Gerda said. Your fragrance is so strong that I cannot help thinking of those dead sisters. Oh, could little Kai really be dead? The roses have been down under the ground, and they say so, and they say no. Ding dong, tolled the hyacinth bells. We do not toll for little Kai. We do not know him. We are simply singing our song, the only song we know. And Gerda went on to the buttercup that shone amongst its glossy green leaves. You are like a bright little sun, said Gerda. Tell me, do you know where I can find my playmate? And the buttercup shone brightly as it looked up at Gerda. But what sort of song would a buttercup sing? It certainly wouldn't be about Kai. In a small courtyard, God's sun was shining brightly on the very first day of spring. Its beams glanced along the white wall of the house next door, and close by grew the first yellow flowers of spring, shining like gold in the warm sunlight. An old grandmother was sitting outside in her chair. Her granddaughter, a poor but very pretty maidservant, had just come home from a little visit. She kissed her grandmother, and there was gold, a heart full of gold in that kiss. Gold on her lips, gold in her dreams, and gold above in the morning beams. There, I've told you my little story, said the buttercup. Oh, my poor old grandmother, said Gerda. She will miss me so. She must be grieving for me as much as she did for little Kai. But I'll soon go home again, and I'll bring Kai with me. There's no use asking the flowers about him. They don't know anything except their own songs, and they haven't any news for me. Then she tucked up her little skirts so that she could run away faster. But the narcissus trapped against her leg as she was jumping over it. So she stopped and leaned over the tall flower. Perhaps you have something to tell me, she said. What did the narcissus say? I can see myself, I can see myself. Oh, how sweet is my own fragrance. Up in the narrow garret there is a little dancer, half dressed.
First she stands on one leg, then she stands on both, and kicks her heels at the whole world. She is an illusion of the stage. She pours water from the teapot over a piece of cloth she is holding. It is her bodice. Cleanliness is such a virtue. Her white dress hangs from a hook. It too has been washed in the teapot and dried on the roof. She puts it on, and ties a saffron scarf around her neck to make the dress seem whiter. Point your toes. See how straight she balances on that single stem. I can see myself. I can see myself. I'm not interested, said Gerda. What a thing to tell me about. She ran to the end of the garden, and though the gate was fastened, she worked the rusty latch till it gave way, and the gate flew open. Little Gerda scampered out into the wide world in her bare feet. She looked back 3 times, but nobody came after her. At last she could run no farther, and she sat down to rest on a big stone. And when she looked up, she saw that summer had gone by, and it was late in the fall. She could never have guessed it inside the beautiful garden where the sun was always shining, and the flowers of every season were always in full bloom. Gracious! How long I've dallied, Gerda said. Fall is already here. I can't rest any longer. She got up to run on, but how footsore and tired she was, and how cold and bleak everything around her looked. The long leaves of the willow tree had turned quite yellow, and damp puffs of mist dropped from them like drops of water. One leaf after another fell to the ground. Only the black thorn still bore fruit, and its fruit was so sour that it set your teeth on edge. Oh, how dreary and grey the wide world looked.
Okay, I'll have a little break there, Fox fans, and just finish my cold tea and have a little sip of water. How are we doing? I wasn't expecting the flower shenanigans. I would definitely do that a bit differently if I was to do this again. But yeah, I hope you're enjoying it. As I said at the start, I've never read this before, so I'm reading this for the first time as I read it out aloud to you. And sorry, as always, for little mistakes here and there. I know you say you don't mind, but I have to always say that. Sometimes the way things are formatted can confuse me a little bit, and sometimes it's just an error. Whoops. I thought I had turned that off. But how are we doing? How are we doing? Are we enjoying the story? Like I said, I really wasn't expecting this strange little section with the flowers. I mean, entertaining, but that's one of those where when something really takes an unusual tangent, and there's suddenly like a bunch of different sort of characters. This is the sort of thing that I would take quite a lot of time over if I was producing this in a regular audiobook fashion, not as a raw live reading like this. And I would really think about varying different voices with a little bit more clear reasoning, and maybe change the tempo or the delivery of things. So I just added a little bit of something to each of them. But like that section where she says, "Oh, but you told the story so sad," and I was like, "Oh, okay, I did it quite softly, but I didn't read it in a sad way." It's really reminding me of Alice in Wonderland, by the way, this section. And oh, excuse me, my stomach. And of course, like someone was mentioning, was it Faye that was mentioning C.S. Lewis? I mean, I know Tolkien very heavily criticized. You know, they were friends, acquaintances, Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, and I know Tolkien criticized Lewis for his sort of random nature of his storytelling. Like, you know, he has um, all sorts of birds and beasts and symbols from Greek to all sorts of different sort of fantasies, all like squashed in the same setting. And Tolkien obviously was extremely meticulous with his world building. And you know, they had different audiences and different themes and everything, but C.S. Lewis must have been influenced by this story. I mean, I know that the list of even famous works that are strongly influenced by the Snow Queen and Hans Christian Andersen is huge. So yeah, it's reminding me of all sorts of things. It sounds like you're enjoying it. Yeah, I think it's going quite well. And has the sound quality been okay? I realised I was doing what I want to do and get a bit closer just to vary the voices a little bit, but I'm not using my pop shield because I've got more distance. It's not required when I'm sat back like this. But I just got conscious near the end of that reading that if I'm coming close, it's gonna mess with those plosives and you know, these P's and B's and S's and things like that. Um, Sound quality is sound, says Rich. Well, that's a start. And welcome, Rich, by the way. Welcome to the stream. Nice to see you. Has anybody else popped in during the reading? I know Mama Fox was popping in just as I started. So, hello to Mama Fox. Oh, and Jacob. I'm never sure if it's Jacob or Jacob. Um, Zielinski, nice to see you. You were popping in just at the start as well. Oh, and you were saying that you're a fan of Andersen's fairy tales. Good stuff. Um, yeah, Jean was joining as a channel member. That was fantastic. Um, just having a little read through the chat whilst I just have a little pause. Oh, Faye was having to head off. You're on about Mandalorian now with Grogu. It sounds nice, Celtic girl. You're kale and apple juice, even if it was too heavy on the kale. Oh yeah, I mean Harry Potter. There's endless uh, borrowing going on with J.K. Rowling's influences. No question. So many things. Myths, obviously, but more modern authors as well. All sorts of stuff. But you know, she put it together in a fabulous way, even if she did take things from all sorts of other places. Yeah, and I've never read Eva Ibbotson. I don't think so. Don't think so. Thank you, Madeline. Enjoying the voices. I was purposely going into this as I know I often say this in live readings, but I was wanting to approach this generally in a more steady way, like not going too crazy in the voices, because when I've not practiced the book, I've not practiced the characters. I don't always know the exact context of every character that's coming into it, so I just go with the flow, and some things I'll keep sort of just more neutral, and then other things, like if I just think like with the old lady, I thought it was harmless to have like a silly voice for her, and just playing around with the flowers to just create a little bit of variety there, as I realized there was this theme going on with stories from the different flowers. So I'm just trying to only use little changes in voice to match the story, not just for the sake of it or whatever. And like I said, if I was to produce this as a polished audiobook, I would rethink a lot of these aspects, but I'm enjoying the story. I'm enjoying the read. So, Olivia liked the Tiger Lily's voice. You see, I don't even remember which that was now. I'd have to go and listen through again. Ah, that's nice, Laura, and welcome to the stream. Really glad you're enjoying it. Oh. Yeah, I know you said you were feeling a bit rough the other day, Faye. You were commenting on the little match girl, but I'm glad that this is a pleasant little distraction. And thank you for the Merry Christmas, and welcome, Donna Pass Whiskey. I don't know if you're still in the stream, but very nice to see you. There's new faces, there's familiar faces. And thank you for the feedback on the sound. You're saying it's sounding good. New word for Olivia. Yeah, there's plosives and there's another word for similar phenomenon as well. Can't just grab it to mind. Yeah, I think so, Rich. You mentioning a theatrical script reading. Yeah, I mean, how theatrical are you thinking? I've looked at let's see. Yeah, The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde. I've had a read through, and that's in like a play format. So yeah, I've definitely considered it. I wasn't sure how well it would work. I think it could work. I was looking at this and a few other things. I was feeling so inspired and very just very creative, like lots on the brain in a very positive sense. A couple of days before, and the morning before, I've mentioned this before, but before that, Lord of the Rings cease and desist order came through to me. Excuse me. And The Importance of Being Earnest was one of them. And fortunately, I just made the Colour Out of Space H.P. Lovecraft audiobook soundscape before that cease and desist order came through, because that was a heavy slap to the face. So yeah, a few of the concepts that I had in my mind at that time, I've sort of put on the back burner. And to be fair, like that was around the time that I started A Little Princess and Alice in Wonderland with the video format. So I absolutely will get back to those. And something like this, I could definitely give a go. I was looking at Sherlock Holmes again. You know, I have read that live a couple of times in the past. There's a version on my channel um, of The Adventure of the Speckled Band, and I've also read A Scandal in Bohemia. But I would like to have a go at a few Sherlock Holmes in a more polished sort of produced fashion. Oh wow, pharyngeal fricatives. That was not the one. That's a cool one. But yeah, it was another term. That is a good one. You've been doing some research, Olivia, I'd say. Yeah, and Anne of Green Gables is one that's been mentioned a lot and requested for. And I do have a copy of that in the same format as A Little Princess. I'm just pointing at it. So you've probably seen this. Let me just... like I said, I'm in a really small clustered space here, but just a second. So yeah, this copy of A Little Princess you've probably seen a few times already, and I have read chapter 1 from the book. That video's on my channel. But this beautiful collection also featured 3 other books. So it came in a pack of 4 with these gorgeous illustrations by Anna Bond. She's done this in a cover as well. And Anne of Green Gables, Little Women, and Heidi were the other 3. So they would be lovely to work from as well. So Anne of Green Gables, yeah, that's high up my list too. Wuthering Heights is very high up my list. Jane Eyre, perhaps. Frankenstein. There's many that have been mentioned, like Count of Monte Cristo, Treasure Island. You know, I could name books all day long. And War of the Worlds, I started on a live stream, a Twitch live stream, at the start of the year. And I would like to go there again. 1984, I would like to have a go at as well. Really enjoyed Animal Farm. Yeah, there's so many, but you know, I get so tempted to start multiple things, but I feel like I should get a little bit better at completing things or getting much further into something maybe before starting another. And sometimes I've not been able to finish things because of copyright, or I've read a couple of things on a live stream just to test it out, you know, and have fun and give a bit of variety to people popping into the stream and things like that. And you know, I read all of the Witches before the Lord of the Rings got taken down, and that's something I probably wouldn't do now. You know, I would absolutely love to read all the Roald Dahl books. You know, I had Fantastic Mr. Fox taken down off my old channel, which I absolutely loved making. You know, so yeah, Shakespeare has of course been mentioned a few times, to say the least. Although not as many times as I would probably have expected. That's a nice idea. The Complete Christmas Stories by Lucy Montgomery. Sorry for bumping my desk, it was wobbling the camera. Yeah, I think I've looked into that before, Karen. And welcome to the stream, Karen. Thanks for saying hello. I'm going to get back with the reading again in just a minute. Dante's Inferno is another one that's been mentioned various times, yeah. Some detective stories would be nice, actually, mentioning William Hope Hodgson. Yeah, and I'd like to read some more H.P. Lovecraft as well. I'm looking at the book over there with this collection of short stories, and I read one on a live stream just about 7 weeks ago or so. What's that, Lynette? Which story is that? Read by Stephen Fry, and they're saying that they've read it themselves. Yeah. Doesn't sound likely. Yeah, Fantastic Mr. Fox was taken down off my old channel. It's frustrating. I was saying a little while ago, there's a guy that's got a YouTube channel, and he's read basically all the Roald Dahl books, and he doesn't seem to have ever had any problems with copyright. So, it just doesn't make sense. It's so inconsistent how these things are, policed or whatever. It's very frustrating. Yeah, Black Beauty you've mentioned in the past, Mama Fox. And I was expecting there to be more requests for Beatrix Potter. I've looked at the more famous ones of hers a bunch of times, and nearly narrated the tale of Peter Rabbit a number of times, but yeah. I mean, I know a lot of you want adult books more than children's books, but I think children's books can be absolutely lovely to read, and a lot of you do enjoy them. They're a little easier to digest sometimes, and can still have a lot of depth and interesting storylines, and they can make you shed tears like nothing. Children's books, they're absolutely wonderful. But like something like Dracula was fantastic in a different way, and often because they're it can be so much longer as well. Like Dracula, 400 pages, which is a lot to do in audiobook form by yourself. It was a real challenge that, and Lord of the Rings. You feel so connected with these characters when you've spent such a long time with them. But saying that, The Secret Garden is, about, 40% the length of Dracula, if that makes sense. Less than half the length. But I felt so connected with Mary, Colin, and Dickon by the end of that story. Goodness me. Feel like you're out in the garden playing with them, and I shouldn't give any spoilers, I guess, but if you've not listened to The Secret Garden, I strongly recommend it. It's a wonderful story. The first chapter is quite heavy and surprising, and it in some ways doesn't really suit the mood almost of the rest of the book, but I think it's necessary. It creates a contrast. There's a juxtaposition, certainly, and it sort of adds the basis for Mary's character. But I can imagine that would put some people off. Maybe that first chapter, like sort of like, oof, is this quite a dark book? What's going on here? But the story is just a beautiful exploration of friendship and finding strength in yourself, and seeing the strength and wonderful characteristics of other people, and building unlikely friendships. Growth in your childhood, in your character, and in nature. And there's sort of symbolism there with the growth of nature and the flourishing of those children. And there's some fantastic adult and elderly characters in there as well. animals feature, and just such like love and respect for nature and the environment that sort of protects us as it grows around us. And yeah, it's absolutely wonderful. And that was a story that I wasn't particularly familiar with before reading. So I think some people imagine that you're going to be extremely familiar with the text that you're reading. And I know some audiobook producers do approach things like that, and I do with certain things, and I don't with others. But The Secret Garden, I read that a very long time ago. And, I was quite new to all this, and, I was no professional or anything. And I'd been working on Harry Potter, which had this unexpected success. Really, really, really amazing. Really, really took me by surprise. And I'd made my little version of The Hobbit, and I'd been experimenting with A Christmas Carol and Pride and Prejudice and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and looking into other things as well. But I'd had some issues with Harry Potter, and The Secret Garden was just a way of trying something different, and a book that I knew was basically safe to work on. I was really looking into copyright and what copyright is for the first time ever at that time, and my dad had given me The Secret Garden as sort of like a little gift in some sense, like when going over to Sweden. He'd bought that copy for you, hadn't he? I think Mama Fox originally. And he said, like, oh, maybe this would be a nice one to read sometime. And I'd had all this success with Harry Potter, but then all this heartache and confusion as well. And I was just looking at the book there on my little bookshelf. And I'd been moving house a lot, and it was a strange time. And I just thought, yeah, that could be nice. So I tried not to think about it at all, and just opened the book, set up my old microphone, and basically just hit record and read it like straight out of the book with no practice whatsoever, no pre-reading whatsoever, and just went for it. And I broke it up into 16 parts with 2 chapters in each part generally, and had like little chats before and after the chapters and everything. It was really nice. It was really nice. And then when it was finished, I obviously edited it all together into that complete audiobook, and it felt so, I don't know, it felt so sort of like basic, I think, when I was doing it, and I was just so shocked to see how many of you really, really enjoyed it. So yeah, thank you for all the kind words on The Secret Garden over the last couple of years. It's been amazing. Very unexpected. Oh, some people are heading off to bed. Should I wonder, I've been live for a couple of hours now. I'm wondering if I should pause here for this evening and come back fresh for some reading tomorrow. I think it was Eileen that was talking about the Snow Queen in a comment and saying it would be lovely to read live, and maybe you should split it over a couple. And I was thinking that I will just read it all in one go, but maybe I should do that. So I could do things a little bit differently and have this as a part 1, do part 2 tomorrow. But before I go today, I could read Twas the Night Before Christmas. So do that today instead. And then tomorrow finish the Snow Queen. And we'll just see where the Nutcracker comes into things. But like I said, I would like to do a few streams over this Christmas period. You know, even if it's a couple of days after Christmas too. Like if I continue things there, like the Nutcracker and things like that, it's still it's all wintry season. It's all festive season. I think it's still very appropriate. And because Caitlin as well. Caitlin, you were asking, are you streaming some Skyrim tonight? And yeah, that's exactly what I would like to do. So I was thinking, you know, as it is, you know, time is ticking on. It's 1 a.m. here. So if I pause with the Snow Queen for tonight, but read Twas the Night Before Christmas now, and then I'll just take like a 10-minute break, and then I'll go over to Twitch for a little bit, for an hour or two, and play a bit of Skyrim, rest my voice a little bit because I don't have to chat quite as much when I'm doing that, and we can just hang out a little bit on Twitch, and you can watch me play a bit of Skyrim, and it's been super nice as that, like really relaxing for me actually. And there's been a little bunch of you each time watching along, so yeah, I think that would be a plan. But let me just have a little catch up on the chat before I switch over to Twas the Night Before Christmas. Timberwolf mentioning the phone book. It's a classic, that. Thank you, Timberwolf. Yeah, Edgar Allan Poe, another one that I've considered many times as well. That was my plan, actually, to do the is it called the case of, not the case of the Rue Morgue, what's it called, what's the full title of that? The murders, the murders in, not the case of, the murders in the Rue Morgue. Yeah, my plan was to do that in a similar format to how I did The Colour Out of Space, so in some sort of soundscape thing. That was my plan, like before all the Lord of the Rings stuff started crashing in, and then I started working on Dracula again. But yeah, I would like to do some Edgar Allan Poe for sure. Oh, and thank you for the Secret Garden compliments, Dawn. Oh, and I'm not familiar with that one, Elisif. I'll have to look that one up. The Fox's Widow. Thanks, Lynette. Yeah, I did actually continue with Harry Potter again after that for a little while, but then did stop for good later on. But yeah, I probably wouldn't have read The Secret Garden if it wasn't for those issues with Harry Potter. So, you know, there's blessings and curses. And I mean, it's similar with Dracula in a sense. You know, so you find classics along the way as well, and new avenues and new directions. Oh, and thank you, Ida, and welcome. Yeah, I don't see why not, Ida. You're asking about, would you consider reading folk tales from around the world? There's a few of you that have mentioned that sort of topic. I mean, we're obviously in Denmark here when we're reading H C Andersen, and we're technically over in Germany when we're reading Brothers Grimm. But you know, over in the Asian continent and subcontinent, absolutely, yeah. I just wouldn't know where to start, so I should probably do a little bit of research there and ask you guys for some recommendations. Yeah, that was sort of what I was wanting to do, Celtic Girl. I did something similar last year, you see, um, in my old place. So I did. It was supposed to be the 5 streams of Christmas, and it ended up being the 4 streams of Christmas because I finished A Christmas Carol a little bit faster than I expected. Um, yeah, and I was sort of wanting to do a similar thing. It might not be every day, and like I said, especially when um, I'm away for a couple of nights over Christmas with Maria's little close family circle. But like I said, if I do a couple of streams after Christmas as well as a couple before, I think it would be really nice. Yeah, I can't do that unfortunately, Connor. Um, yeah, I mean you can happily send me an email. I've mentioned this sort of thing in the past with Lord of the Rings, but I can't just send you the audio files, I'm afraid, Connor. But I know you're a big fan, and thank you for that. Oh, but jump over to Twitch, Faye. It's super simple. It's exactly the same sort of thing as YouTube. And you don't need to pay for an account. You don't even need to make an account to be able to watch the streams. It's the same as with YouTube. You only need an account, a free, literally just a free name like you do on YouTube to chat and to follow channels and things like that. Yeah, I'm not surprised you're going to be dozing off. Sounds like you've been up throughout the night, Lynette. Yeah, William Blake, absolutely. Yeah, I read a lot of William Blake at school. Various other famous poets. Oh, don't you worry, Timberwolf. Thank you very much for being here. It's been really nice. Oh, and cheers, Louis. Much appreciated. Thank you, and welcome to the stream. Yeah. All right. So let's take a little break from the Snow Queen, and I don't know if Shannon is still here because she's been wanting this one since last year. So I hope she's still around. It would be a shame if she missed it. But I think it just works well here and now. So if I remove this, let me just change this 1 second. I guess I will remove this for the time being. So I've got 4 more parts to read of the Snow Queen, and 4 more lovely illustrations for you as well. I hope you've liked the concept with the illustration there. It just, adds a little bit of something, and I think her stuff is absolutely beautiful. So this was Erin Beachy, by the way, the illustrator of these. If you want to look her up on Tumblr, and I'm sure she's on other social media as well. They're really nice. I'll show you 4 just for fun as I'm here. So this is part 4, and part 4 is The Prince and the Princess. And it looks like we're about halfway through, by the way. So it's a logical stopping point. But I will make these invisible for now and change this. And I learnt today that the author of "Twas the Night Before Christmas," with the official title "A Visit from St. Nicholas," I learnt today that the authorage is disputed. So originally it was published anonymously in 1823. The Snow Queen, by the way, was published 1844. So yeah, A Visit from St. Nicholas, published anonymously in 1823, but 14 years later, it was attributed to Clement Clark Moore, who claimed authorship. And I'm just reading here. It says, the poem has been called arguably the best known verses ever written by an American, and is largely responsible for some of the conceptions of Santa Claus from the mid-19th century to today. It has had a massive effect on the history of Christmas gift-giving. Before the poem gained wide popularity, American ideas had varied considerably about St. Nicholas and other Christmas-tide visitors. And then it says, A Visit from St. Nicholas eventually was set to music and has been recorded by many artists. But yeah, so the authorship was disputed later, and there's been other claims and all sorts of shenanigans, but yeah, I guess I will just keep it simple here, because I normally include the author's name, but it is attributed to Clement Clark Moore, but it is still disputed apparently, so it's not 100% confirmed, which is quite unusual. Don't know if this is going to fit. Let me just... Yeah. Oops, sorry for bumping the mic. Is it? Okay. Doobie doop 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 boop. Doobie doop doop. Doobie doop doop boop. All right. Don't need you, but I did want... No, it's not needed. I was going to add another little picture, but it's not needed. It's fine. One of my candles is gone. We're down to 3. Okay, so it's a real short one, is this? It's a real short one. How many of you are familiar with Twas the Night Before Christmas, by the way? But Shannon's not popped back into the chat. I wonder if she's headed off. She's going to miss it. Yeah, she is going to be mad. But she really seems to enjoy watching the streams back again afterwards, so... Yeah, I know, that's the thing. I saw her earlier. Oh, and good night to Madeline, Claire. Lovely to have you here, as always. Thanks ever so much. You take care. Oh, and Inexhaustible Receivers joined in as well. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Oh, and so you're a William Blake fan. Interesting. Oh, good luck with that, Faye. Keep at it. William Blake, eh? Yeah, I do have a collection of many of his poems, but I don't have it here. It's back in the UK, but you know, I can get things online. She'll be cool. Shannon will be cool. I don't want to change the plan again now. Like, I was thinking she was still here, you see, but I don't want to jump around, and I'm sure she will enjoy it after the stream. So, like I said, it's just a short one. Oh, you read it every year. That's super nice. Okay, so... Twas the Night Before Christmas by Clement Clark Moore. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Mamma in her kerchief, and I in my cap, had just settled down for a long winter's nap. When out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from the bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new-fallen snow gave the lustre of midday to objects below, when what to my wondering eyes should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer. With a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be St. Nick. More rapid than eagles his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name.
Now, Dasher, now, Dancer, now, Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donner and Blitzen. To the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, now dash away, dash away, dash away all.
As dry leaves that before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle, mount to the sky, so up to the housetop the coursers they flew, with the sleigh full of toys, and St. Nicholas too. And then, in a twinkling, I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my hand and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur, from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry. His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard of his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke it encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowlful of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work, and filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk, and laying his finger aside of his nose, and giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim, ere he drove out of sight,
Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night.
There you go. That was 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, more commonly known as The Night Before Christmas, a visit from St. Nicholas. There we have it. That's it. I've actually never read that before. That was the first time I've ever read it. So I had a little look just to make sure that this version I've got here matched other versions that I found, and I liked how it was displayed, but I've never read it before. whether in my head or out aloud. So I hope you enjoyed it. I just read it as it came. It was really nice. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I was suddenly like, I think because I was doing that gruff voice, I was suddenly inspired by my old Hagrid voice, you see. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. Oh, aye. The children, they be nestled all snug in their beds. Good old Hagrid. I do miss Hagrid. Do miss him. Glad you enjoyed it. Thanks very much. Thanks very much. What were you saying? Edward Gorey is my favourite artist writer. The pen and ink hatching, cross-hatching. Love his little books. I don't know that guy, Edward Gorey. Santa is Van Helsing. No. Van Helsing wouldn't read it like that. No. Yeah, I know what you're saying, but no. No, Dasher. I am missing Dracula, actually. It's one of those things, like, you do want to get a project finished and have that closure, but there's it's a very odd mixture of feelings when you finish something like that as well, and you sort of, like, you're just sort of like floating afterwards. And it's sort of sad as well. Like you like mourn a little bit for the book and the characters when you've spent, I started that over a year ago, and obviously I've not been working on it for the entire year or anything, but on and off I've been working on it very intensely, several days every week, many hours. So yeah, Van Helsing, Madame Mina, the drama in that 27th chapter. Goodness gracious. Oh, thank you, Mary. Nice to see you as well, Mary. Very nice to see you. And thanks. Glad you enjoyed it, peeps. Yeah, I hope so, Celtic. But when I was doing a lot of Van Helsing's, I get this, like, when I've spent a lot of time with Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter or Dracula, like, I end up just going around the house, like, saying random things in these characters, which Maria takes very well, I think. Smeagol was a reoccurring character for a very long time, and I've never even really got to Smeagol in the books. He mainly appears in book 4, but we all know Smeagol, and obviously I did have a go with Smeagol back in my very rough version of The Hobbit, and he features in the prologue of The Lord of the Rings, but yeah, she just found it very entertaining. Yeah, you know what I mean, Celtic. You know what I'm saying. Okay, thank you so much for being here this evening. Like I said, I'm just gonna have like a 10-15 minute break. I might just have a little snack or something, because it is late here. And then I'm gonna go over to Twitch and just play a little bit of Skyrim. Like, I really enjoyed it a couple of days ago. Nice to just wind down a little bit, and might as well share it with some of you. And it's just nice to, like, not wait 6 weeks before the next part. For those of you that are actually enjoying watching it and following it, and also for myself, so I just get a little bit more absorbed, and I'm not as bad and sloppy at the game. You know, I could just really feel like, you know, I'm okay at it. But when I played it 2 times back to back, or roughly back to back, you know, you're getting familiar with the game, how it works and everything. And then if you wait 6 weeks, when it's not a game that I've ever played much, you know, you just feel so rusty. Like what you know, what keys what and all the rest of it, and you're not just really getting fully absorbed in it. So I think it'd be nice to play again today rather than letting time slip by as it tends to do. Yeah. All right, but if you would like to join me on Twitch, it would be a pleasure. It would be an absolute pleasure to see you there. There's a link down in the video description. If somebody is able to help me out and drop it in the chat, I can do it. I can do it. But Twitch, for those of you that are still not familiar, you know, it's been around quite a long time now, but it is basically the #1 streaming platform in the world. And I just really trust it for video game streaming. It's very stable, from my experience anyway. But yeah, and then, like I said, tomorrow I will head back online, maybe a little bit earlier than I did today, and finish the Snow Queen, and we'll see if we can have another short story maybe, and maybe start Nutcracker another day. Here we go. Oh yeah, yes, I was just saying, Celtic. I'll be narrating again tomorrow. So yeah, maybe just a couple of hours earlier than today if I can. That's the plan anyway. That's the plan. But certainly no later than I did today. If it's the same time as today, then fair enough. But I will aim for a couple of hours earlier. And if I know for certain, just like when it feels good and when it's going to fit and everything, I will schedule the stream. So you might see it pop up in your subscription feed. So I did schedule this one 15 minutes before I went live. Just to make the video description and the thumbnail and things. So look out for it anyway, but I'll definitely be on tomorrow evening to finish the Snow Queen. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed it this evening. It's been lovely to hang out with you. And yeah, I'll see you in 15 minutes if you want to pop over to Twitch and just hang out a little bit there. And I'll play a bit more Skyrim. And I mean, for those of you that are not familiar with Skyrim, I think you might like it, to be honest. Like, especially those of you that like the Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. It's a fantastically made game and oddly relaxing. Like you've been saying, Olivia. Oh, don't worry, Olivia, I've just dropped the link in there. Although I don't see it. Did it appear? Did my link appear? Did it not share? I can see it here, but not on the other screen. That's weird. Hopefully you saw the link, but it's in the video description anyway. The Twitch link. Yeah, it's a role-playing adventure game, and you build your own character. Very deep world. I like to read from the books that you can find along the journey, and sort of voice act the character a little bit. Who's a like a cat man. It's pretty cool. Called Alduin. So yeah, like some of you not familiar might actually enjoy it. So it's very chill, but also like rather dramatic and dangerous at the same time. The world is perilous out there. No, oh, that's weird. You don't see the link. Yeah, I threw it in on a different screen, and it shows it as sent here, but I can't see it. But it's basically twitch.tv/Red Fox Voice. So if you just go to Twitch, there's an app that's excellent, similar to the YouTube app, or you can just open it in the web browser. And if you search Red Fox Voice, that's me. That was my old channel name, and I still like to use Red Fox Voice as a bit of like a like an over encompassing, it's not even a word, but like an umbrella term for like my general content and stuff. So yeah, Red Fox Voice over on Twitch. Yeah, I don't know about total commies, but yeah, it might just be because I'm dropping a link and it's blocking it. I'm not sure. But in the video description, there is the Twitch link. But if you literally just Google or search Twitch Red Fox Voice, you will find me there. It's a good service, very, very good service. Okay, so I'll say goodbye for now and good night to those of you that are heading off. And those of you that want to hang out for me, I'll see you in about 15 minutes. And thank you so much for your company this evening. It's been really, really nice. I really enjoyed the reading, not even knowing what was coming as I went along, but it was good. It was good. Solid recommendations, these, because these are stories that have been recommended by people in the comments many times. So okay, so good night to those heading off. Read to you soon for those of you that are joining me tomorrow. And yeah, let's hang out in about 15 minutes, the rest of you. Cheers, Celtic. Lovely to have you in the chat, everybody. Super nice. Okay, take care. Bye for now. My pleasure, Olivia. Good night. Good